The Sony a7R Mark IV is the latest in Sony's high-resolution arm of the A7 range, with an impressive pixel count of 61 megapixels. People were quick to dub the a7R IV as a bit of a Marmite camera, with some hailing it as the finest full-frame mirrorless camera in existence, and some being left a little underwhelmed. So I thought today I would go through what's actually changed since the a7R Mark III to see where the Mark IV fits in out there in the wider world. I'll start with what I think is one of the most meaningful changes, and that is the improved ergonomics. In a similar vein to what we saw with the release of the A9 II, Sony have given the switchgear a redesign, with much chunkier buttons on the back, as well as a deeper and more comfortable grip. The effect this has on the overall usability of the camera is really quite substantial. It feels far more natural and less fiddly to use, and makes for a more enjoyable shooting experience overall. Sony also say that the weather sealing has been improved, and there's a new damped shutter mechanism which produces less shake than before and is quieter as a result. And the EVF is also high resolution now. These tangible tweaks are what makes me feel like they definitely tried to make the a7R IV into a more versatile camera. Moving on to the innards, and one of the major changes is the move to Sony's latest autofocusing system, with real-time tracking as well as eye autofocus for stills and video. It works for human and animal eyes for stills, and just human eyes for video. It's certainly snappier than before, and the eye tracking feature actually seems to be genuinely useful and quite reliable in most situations, bar perhaps extreme low light where there can be the odd bit of hesitation. Overall though, it just feels that bit more up-to-date and dependable now. Along with the faster AF, continuous shooting speed is now up to 10 frames per second with full autofocus functionality at up to compressed RAW quality settings. 10 FPS is pretty respectable given the resolution, and it just means that you'll be able to use the a7R IV in more situations than before. Because of this new turn of speed and the 61 megapixel files produced, it's a good job that both SD card slots are now UHS 2 capable, which should help with offloading files from the buffer to the cards. We should probably talk about that sensor then. At 61 megapixels, it's higher resolution than any other full-frame mirrorless camera currently out there. And of course, online there has been argument as to whether anyone really needs that sort of detail, but why don't you let us know what you think in the comments below. Instead, I'd say that with all those pixels, it does give you great cropping ability, and it means that if you ever use the APS-C crop mode, which a lot of people do, you still have 26 megapixels to play with. The other trick up the a7R IV's sleeve is its new 16-shot pixel shift mode, in which the camera takes 16 separate images, moving the sensor incrementally in between each one. You can then combine these images in Sony's Imaging Edge software to create one monster high-res 240 megapixel image. That's pretty incredible, although it's worth bearing in mind that it only really works for perfectly still subjects, which limits its everyday usefulness to certain types of shooters, like those who photograph architecture or reproduce artworks. The feature also works with strobes, but then you're limited to 1/8 of a second shutter speed. So that's the gist of the a7R IV. Overall, it just feels like a more useful camera, and one that's definitely more pleasing to use than before. Whether or not you personally want 61 megapixels will be up to you, but aside from the resolution, this camera still has a lot to offer. If you want to try one out for yourself, you can hire one from us on our website, and the link to do just that is down below.